Hello everybody, and welcome to day 5 of 5 Days of Vehicles. Also, sorry this video is pretty late. I was preoccupied with quite a bit, and, well, I just wasn't able to get around to it. But don't worry, there's more content on the way besides this. Anyways, on day 5, we got the Falcon S. And while everybody is calling this day 5, as it was announced, I want to call it day 5.5. Because while we did get a brand new sport bike in the game, we also got a revamp for the existing dirt bike, patrol bike, and dune buggy. Not so much a revamp as it was a complete redo to the chassis of the vehicle, which is basically the part of the model that sits you, if I'm correct. So bikes work completely differently now. Well, not completely, but fairly differently. For example, now they actually can go off ramps and use rocket fuel, and you can drift in them. And I saw a lot of people saying, really? A bike that costs 150K is day 5's vehicle, which is supposed to be the grand finale to this event? And I could see that, but honestly, I'm not upset at all. I really like this vehicle, and I like how we closed with a revamp for multiple vehicles, as opposed to just one new vehicle. I also saw a lot of people complaining that this vehicle isn't limited, and it's not that big a deal to me. Limited vehicles just add to the loot pool of trading, and it's kind of just, makes it more cluttered, and that's not to say I don't like limited vehicles, but I'm not upset that we didn't get one. I wouldn't have cared if the vehicle was limited or not. But anyways, we got the Falcon S, which is a sport bike. It's based off of a bike, that's for sure. And it looks great. The model's really well designed. Every 5 Days of Vehicles vehicle this time around was really well designed, and the composition and detail on all of them was just really well put together. And this one really feels like a sport bike. The exterior looks great, and quote-unquote the interior looks great as well. And by that I mean like the little display and the windshield. It all looks pretty good. This car also has a custom engine sound. Take a listen. Transitioning into stats, this car seats 2 players, and it is a very small vehicle, so it does look a bit funny when you try to put 2 people on the bike, but it's not the end of the world. The only nitpick I have is that as the passenger, trying to go into first person just puts you in the head of the driver, which isn't optimal, but it works in third person just fine. And speaking of going into first person, this might be the only car in the game that I prefer to drive in first person. I know that's not something a lot of people do. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite. I think people avidly avoid first person. But in this case, with the seat of the bike being in the center, and with the FOV being increased so dramatically when you drive it, it actually works really well. The actual bike doesn't get in the way too much. You can actually see your surroundings decently well. And the fast handling makes it so you can cut corners and also still tell where you're going. I really like driving this vehicle in first person. It really does feel like you're riding the bike. And that's what first person should feel like. And I like it. I'm a fan. The only nitpick I have for first person is that my hands get in the way a bit too much, but that is kind of my fault for using a blocky avatar. Which reminds me, we did get changed animations for bikes as well. It's not just your avatar sitting on it and then only your arms turning. Your whole body leans and swerves with the bike, which I think is a really cool touch. Finally, moving into stats. How well does this bike perform? Well, it has a max speed of around 168 miles per hour and really good acceleration. Oftentimes, you won't be missing out on the top speed. I think where this bike really shines is its handling. You can make pretty much any corner going at top speeds with this thing. In fact, I almost always overshoot corners and I'll turn too early and I'll end up bumping into walls. And when you drift, it's a whole different story. If it wasn't so random at points, it would be great, because half the time when you drift, you'll either do a complete 180 or you'll spin out of control and kind of bump into the side of the road. If you could consistently do a full 180 with it, this would be probably like one of my favorite vehicles to just drive, because doing a 180 so seamlessly is so fun when you're trying to avoid cops, especially because most cars can't do it. In fact, I don't think any other vehicle in the game can do a 180 as quickly as this vehicle besides the other bikes. So yeah, its handling gets an A+, and its braking is also really good. On top of that, its off-roading is really decent. It can climb small hills and stuff really well, but don't try to climb a vertical surface. It will not work. You bounce around a bit too much, which is the only complaint I think I have when it comes to this bike's stats. It's very, very bouncy, but it's not horrible. It's just a little annoying at points. Now, I did leave out one stat, and that is this vehicle's reverse speed. Because, and what I'm about to say is not dishonest or anything, this is the truth, this vehicle has the best reverse speed in Jailbreak history. This bike goes 148 miles per hour backwards. The drone goes 140, and the military helicopter is around that as well, I believe. Which means this bike has a faster reverse speed than every other vehicle in the game. Now, it does take quite a bit to hit that 148, but it is not hard to hit 100 going backwards, which is still pretty darn insane. That being said, I also don't think you should be driving this car in reverse. It's not really a statistic that changes how the car performs, but it's definitely something noteworthy. So all in all, this bike has really solid stats, and I find it really fun to drive it around. I know some people would have preferred a supercar that could go 300 miles per hour and just was the best car in the game, and I know a lot of people were happy with the successor, and if that was the day 5 vehicle instead of this, then I think a lot of people would have been way happier. But the bike is just a blast to drive around, and I think that's my favorite part of this vehicle, and of this 5 days of vehicles, is a vehicle that is just fun to drive. In fact, most of the vehicles this time around were fun to drive, and the Falcon is just super awesome to experience in third or first person. This isn't all the content I'll be making on this update, of course. I will be doing a video encompassing everything you missed, like I did last year, but in the meantime, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more quality content.